So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Artemis. So let's start the series. Naruto! Time to get up, we have class in a few hours. 5 more minutes. Damn it, Naruto! It's your turn to make breakfast. If you don't wake up in the next 3 seconds, I will make sure that the ramen store you love blacklists you for a month. Naruto yelled. I'm up! And sprang out of bed, toppling Athena in the process. Her look frozen him in place, and he flinched. The most intelligent girl at the academy, and the scourge of the Nara clan's shadow users is Athena. In chess, Go, and other military strategy games, she has so far vanquished seasoned ninja from the previous Shinobi War. The ANBU is talking about her tactical skills, and Shikaku, the Jonin commander, wanted to take her under his tutelage. She humiliated the commander in 3 consecutive chess games at the same time, claiming she wasn't interested at the time. As he prepared for the day under her watchful gaze, Naruto pondered. Her spear/sword and shield combos and weapons class are unparalleled by anyone by multiple generations, and her hand-to-hand is matched only by her sister. Athena's sister entered Naruto's room after a yawn was heard. Good morning, Athena. Got the Sleeping Beauty up, did you? As he put on his jumpsuit, Naruto complained. I still do not get that reference. Artemis is the village's best tracker, markswoman, and knife user. She is an expert in her field, just like her sister. Prior to her arrival, Sasuke's older brother held the record for the annual academy hunt, which she totally surpassed. She beat Sasuke so severely that he spent a week in the hospital after he attempted to court her to become his girlfriend. Since he did attempt to get too fresh with her, she was let go with ease. As a result, she holds a position on the Inner Council of Konoha's Anti-Pervert Alliance, Kappa, of which she is a proud member. I have watched her use any type of projectile and never miss a target. She has only been challenged hand-to-hand in class by her sister. Turning, Naruto glanced at his 2 housemates. Athena wore an ordinary t-shirt with an owl on it, and ANBU issue leggings. Her long, dark blonde hair was styled in a complicated braided ponytail. Artemis was dressed in a knee-length silver gown. She wore a headband to keep her free hair out of her eyes. Both appeared to be among the oldest shinobi Naruto had ever encountered. As if they had seen a lot of the world and were familiar with things that he had not yet considered or encountered. When perverts tried their luck at the school, the pair was known to beat them up. Since the sisters made it plain that he would suffer so much that the afterlife's location for damned souls would resemble a vacation if he did, Naruto knew better than to come too close to them. Naruto pulled out the equipment he would need to prepare the lunch and said, So what do you girls want? Athena pulled out a book on advanced construction and said, I'll take some eggs, toast, sausages, and juice. As she began to sharpen her knife, which she used depending on her mood, Artemis said, For me, I will have toast, ham, sausages, an apple, plus water if you would. As the sisters sat down at the table, Naruto rolled his eyes at them. He hurriedly began by putting the toast in the toaster before beginning to prepare the meat and eggs. Yes, Naruto was a part of the gang. So, anything new with the Kappa Artemis that I missed at the last meeting? She joined days after her sister, so she's not as far up as Artemis or Athena, but she's still a member. Not much. We have made sure that the sale of that perverted series, Ichi, was banned from another location, but the books are still being sold in places where the males that read the filth hang out or own. We were able to burn another 30 copies that were owned by one named Kakashi. Oh, and we were able to get the name of the author's main publisher. Soon we will make sure that the next issue wouldn't leave the final draft," Artemis said with a grin. The smile was returned by Naruto, who grinned back. He had a grievance with the book's fans, and he saw it as a victory that they will soon be able to slow down and temporarily halt the sales of the perverted books. From behind the book her face was in, Athena's voice said, "I still don't understand why the Hokage will not place a ban on the sale of the books. He supports our cause and is the local leader. We merely want the books to be prohibited from being sold and from being read in public, even if he does read them. The wise male members of the council will not accept the books, which are a source of review for the village," sneered Naruto. Additionally, I noticed that a number of the ladies voted against the ban's passage. The only sound heard while the girls and lone male went about their separate jobs was the fizzing of the ham. As the three of them made their way toward the academy for what would hopefully be their final day as students, Athena turned to face Naruto. She and her sister might have easily graduated, but in order to have the blonde-haired ninja on their squad, she and Artemis took the course more than once. "I'm hoping Taichi treats Naruto well today. He is getting close to the age limit, and his goal will be dashed before it can meet its first significant prerequisite if he fails." Similar ideas were shared by Artemis, but she came up with a plan to make the village regret not passing the youngster if he failed. Despite having no training, he had proven to be an excellent tracker and possessed a number of qualities that would make him a skilled hunter if he were home. "I'll agree to train him by my hunt till he reaches a level where any community would want him if he doesn't succeed tonight. But if it comes to that, he'll be a good new huntress." Regarding Naruto, he was thinking about how he would pass the section on cloning in the test. He wasn't concerned about the paper test because Athena was an extremely convincing instructor. Recalling how he failed a paper test and Athena found out, he trembled. As he walked around a cart, he thought, "I still remember where each of the bruises are." While several of the villagers gave the trio a stern look, none made any attempt to disperse or hurt them. Naruto remembered how one of them had once tossed a tomato at them all. Naruto later learned that wolves and owls had attacked him in the middle of the night. The man and his family were swiftly transported to Ibiki, who yelled that they were being framed, after an investigation into their lives revealed that they were selling information to IWA. He questioned whether he really knew anything about the pair based on their appearances whenever he brought up the incident. Naruto and the community only knew that the girls came from a place called Americie, which is located beyond the boundless sea. It was one of the world's powers and a place more developed than the snow area, according to some of the stories they told. If only by sheer chance of the draw. The country only rose to prominence as a result of circumstances that gave it the opportunity to enter the global arena, although a little too soon. The elders had made several attempts to get the girls to explain how to convey a message to the country, or where to find it. Alternatively, to another power. Each time, they had declined, claiming that they were not in a position to provide the information. It's also for the best. Many global powers would be snatching at the opportunity to invade the countries for the land and its natural riches if what they say is accurate. That would lead to a new conflict because the villages would align themselves with a power, and the battle, according to Athena, would result in a huge new global conflict. According to both females, it was best because there was less risk of a fresh conflict as long as the powers could not reach these areas. Naruto glanced back at the females and thought, "I wish they trusted me more." Despite the villagers' animosity, I get the impression that they are concealing something related to how quickly they became friends with me. His thoughts were interrupted by the academy's imposing doors. You fail! As Naruto entered the Hokage Tower, those words continued to reverberate in his mind. He was certain that he had passed the paper test and was among the best taijutsu students, thanks to both Athena and Artemis, but he didn't understand. But during the test's ninjutsu portion, his chakra went crazy for no apparent reason. His henge was so awful that it was offensive, but his kawarimi went perfectly. What about his bunshin? It was flawless 3 days prior, and he had spent the previous 3 years working on it with his pals. However, the floor's white muck had told it all. In order to hide his failure from Athena and Artemis, Naruto had hurried out of the building. However, he had a hunch that they were aware. They would have figured it out by now if he hadn't returned home for the feast. I need to concentrate. According to Mizuki, in order for me to become a genin, I had to steal a scroll that he had marked inside the tower. As he tiptoed softly toward the direction of Gigi's office, Naruto thought, "Then I can show the girls that I made it." As Gigi's ANBU began their rounds, Naruto ducked behind a pot that contained a tree. Naruto hurried through the doors of the Hokage's office and into the room on the left after counting to the number Mizuki had given him. Naruto turned to go after seeing the scroll. With the scroll on his back, Naruto closed the doors behind him and began to tiptoe out. Prior to Naruto? What are you doing? Blood gushing sound thud. Where is that boy? As she sharpened one of her arrowheads while sitting on the couch, Artemis pondered. Athena was sitting on the armchair, trying to repair the dent in her shield by cleaning it. In summary, Naruto once borrowed her shield and rode down the Hokage mountain on it like a toboggan, thereby breaking it in the process. Athena freaked out when Naruto raced past her on her shield, and Artemis snorted, trying not to laugh. Oh, I wish I had a recorder to capture the moment. Athena asked her sister. What is he doing right now? Artemis, can you tell at all? Artemis gave an eye roll. Athena, he's upset that he failed again. Let's let him be alone until he feels ready to tell us. Naruto has only had his dream and us to keep him going. Because of this most recent failure, the boy probably has taken this one more personal than the others. What I don't understand was how he had failed in the first place. You made sure that he would pass the writing part, and add the hand-to-hand plus the accuracy tests. His ninjutsu, while he has difficulty, should not have caused him to fail. Athena scraped harder at a patch of dirt on her shield and grumbled. There lies the problem. I even used the mist to check his answers, and while he missed a few, there was enough right that he should have passed without fail. But when I got the chance to see the graded form, it said that he only got half right. Mizuki was the administrator for the writing test, and the one who graded Naruto's test was Irika. You don't think he did something? Artemis replied to her sibling. He seems to think of Naruto as a little brother that is just like himself when he was a young lad. Athena began drumming on her shield with her fingers, saying, No, Irika has nothing to gain. He is a teacher at heart, and truly wants to see his students grow. But Mizuki, he is someone that has never struck me as a loyal shinobi of the leaf. Artemis felt or saw someone approaching the apartment door just as she was going to respond to her sister. She flashed on a new clothing and headed toward the entrance, signaling Athena. In place of her silver tunic, Artemis was now dressed in shorts, slippers, and a t-shirt with a quarter moon on the back. She opened the door and saw Irika's panting figure. Sensei, what's the matter? You look like you have been chasing Tor again. Now wearing casual clothing, Athena approached and took a position behind her sister. If they arrived at the door wearing their favorite appearance, eyebrows would be raised. Irika asked in a low, rushed voice after glancing at the two. Have you seen Naruto, you two? The last time we saw him was on the swing following the test, so no, sensei, we haven't seen him. Do either of you know where he may have gone? Irika swore. Irika, what's wrong? Does Naruto have a problem? Naruto has supposedly stolen the forbidden scroll. Okay, Miruki-sensei said that if I took this scroll and brought it here without anyone following me, I will become a genin. And if I learn a secret from the scroll, Artemis and Athena will be on my team. Naruto gazed at the unrolled scroll before him. His heart fell when his eyes fell on the first secret on the scroll. Why does it have to start with a cloning jutsu? Shadow clones or multi-shadow clones, a high chakra use technique. User gains any knowledge the clones learn when they dispel. Cool. Shadow shuriken. User throws a single throwing start, and uses his or her chakra to make real copies of the star. Shadow kunai, same as shuriken. Naruto moaned as he examined the jutsu. Poof. Naruto smiled, confident that he would pass the test. Mizuki lay gasping on the forest floor, thinking angrily. How could I have lost to the demon brat? His body aching from the severe pounding Naruto had given him, but he was alerted by the splitting of a tree that he wasn't alone. Who's there? Present yourself! Be silent. Mizuki's eyes widened as he felt his lips seal like they were being sewn together. I know that voice. How do I know that voice? He thought as he watched two figures emerge from the tree's shadows, both of them women he somehow recognized from somewhere, one wearing a silver dress with a notched bow ready for use, the other wearing some kind of feminine armor with a sword out. He wished the ANBU would come so that he could go to prison, which seemed like a better place than here because the women were leaking ki. They won't come, you, said the person wearing the dress. They have changed their thoughts and now believe that you died by having a suicide seal on you. As if she were a soldier, the armored woman said. You have attempted to hurt our friend, and you will have to pay the price for it. The fields of punishment is where you are going. Sister, before you do so, I would want to make sure that this male understands that it is not wise to anger an immortal, especially two goddesses. When the woman waved her hand, Mizuki's eyes widened, and he recognized the toe. With a great effort of will, driven by wrath, he yelled at the goddesses. You're the demon brat little buddies! As the wolves began to circle the guy, Athena and Artemis smiled at him and said, Yes, we are. Do you know what you are, sensei? Artemis spoke softly into the man's ear. Dinner. Artemis observed without blinking. Athena summoned one of the Furies despite the man's agonizing death, and after a moment, Tisiphone emerged. Yes, Mistress Athena? A moment later, Mizuki screamed as the wolves fell upon him. You need something? She said, bowing. That soul that needs to go to the fields of punishment, Athena said, nodding and pointing to the now dead body and soul next to it, which were restrained by a chain. To add interest, let my uncle know. Naturally, mistress. Is there anything else, mistress? The rage grabbed the chain and asked. The rage nodded and vanished, taking Mizuki's soul with it. No, Tisiphone, that will be all. How are Naruto and Irika doing? Now they're all right. The man was sent to his bed, asleep, after Artemis snapped her fingers. I also altered the memory of everyone involved tonight so that they think it was the ANBU who found the scroll after Mizuki died. I healed Irika and altered his memory a bit so that he believes that the ANBU healed him and brought him home. What about Naruto's? I largely left things alone. Altered the course of events to resemble what happened tonight. A shudder ran up Naruto's spine as he slept, and both Athena and Artemis shared a similar thought, looking at his resting body. His punishment was not going to be pleasant. I'm sorry. I truly apologize. Please pardon me. I'm sorry. Mercy? What did you do, Naruto? Kiba asked as he and the other graduated ninja gazed at the scene in front of them, even Sasuke, who shuddered every time Artemis's eyes met his. The scene showed Naruto tussled up like a Christmas turkey, and Athena and Artemis stood respectfully on either side of him, each holding a spoon filled with silver or black goop. The silver goop was from a bowl that Athena was holding that was bubbling and emitted growls, while the black one came from a bowl that Athena was holding that was releasing growls. Unlike her sister's goop, this one ate a spoon and attempted to eat her hand before she could get some onto the spoon. Difficult. Girls are just troublesome, Shikamaru said, yawning as he watched the action unfold from his seat with both hands raised. Of all the girls he knew, those were the most dangerous and bothersome. Sakura and Ino were bothersome, but at least they could be ignored, Ino, or avoided, Sakura. The sisters were more frightening because they knew how to use them. To make matters worse, Naruto was particularly hungry because the sisters made sure to lock all the food in the apartment both in the morning and at night so that he was forced to eat the goop they had each made, and they even made sure the ramen stand was closed. Naruto tugged at his bonds as he attempted to escape the meals they had prepared for him. Then he became hungry and said, "How did they do that? There's nothing that could stop the old man from making ramen. Nothing. In the meantime, yes! By Kami, that's the spot." Techi groaned as a pair of hands massaged his back, his daughter next to him receiving the same royal treatment. As their bodies were massaged by skilled hands, months or even years of stress were being removed, and his daughter was in heaven as his back was massaged and his feet were gently rubbed while his hair was washed. In the back of his mind, he heard a voice telling him that he had to return to work. "Would you mind tying up some finely aged wine, sir or madam? It's been around for more than 1,700 years. It's old. Is it good?" Iam said. "Of course, the one who brewed it, not one to make inferior wine." The girl in silver smiled at her. "The lady of the home gave us this from his own family cellar. After we performed her a favor a long time ago, our friend Nisarin gifted it to us. Stated that even though she loves her husband, she hopes he would learn his lesson. If he discovers the more time it takes him to return, the more wine will be lost." When she gave them a small glass of wine, the old man and his daughter's eyes brightened as they took sips. With shaking palms, Techi gazed at the empty glass and said, "That was... I've never tasted a better wine." The girl grinned and filled the glasses once more after finishing Iam, and then she left. As the huntress went to prepare the hot spring for the chief and waitress, she thought, "I wonder why Lady Artemis is having us treat these folks like this. She and Athena have been extra secretive for the past few years and Artemis has yet to tell us, her own hunters. But then again, if we get these two to relax a little more, we might be able to pry answers from them. They look like they haven't been able to relax for at least 10 years. Returning to Naruto, to test if he might get away, Naruto tried a different strategy. He looked at Artemis and gave her the baby fox eyes without doing any jutsu, saying, "Please Artie, have mercy." "I'm sorry, Naruto, but that won't work. We won't release you until you have consumed one of our meticulously prepared dinners. You're being punished for last night with this." You'll need energy for whatever your teacher has planned for you, Naruto. You've gone 2 meals without eating. What the heck? I once spent a month there. Naruto. Let's make one thing obvious. And also, this is for not telling us about what Mizuki told you, Athena said, her gaze gradually growing stormier. That was then, and this is now. Naruto's eyes rolled back and he fainted as Athena pinched his nose, forcing him to open his mouth to eat. So eat up, Artemis urged, forcing her goop into his mouth. Are the two of you attempting to murder him? Because I really think that food is trying to, Choji said. Don't worry, Choji. We made sure to put in everything that he needs to get going strong today, the girls said as they waved him away. The only reason mine appears this way is to frighten him, and he is frightened by the thought of our punishing him today. We won't do it now, so it will be even worse when we do. A voice from out of nowhere said, But Artemis failed the baking and cooking classes? When Artemis and her sister's expressions became blank, they turned to face Naruto. His soul began to slowly emerge from his mouth, but Athena caught it by the tail and reinserted it into Naruto before it could go completely. You see? Nothing to worry about. The class eagerly moved away from the sisters as they grinned at Naruto. Rolling her eyes as Naruto was not awake, Athena slapped Naruto awake. He's all right. No! When Naruto woke up, he cried out, I didn't turn into a naked girl that knocked out the perverted Hokage. A silence descended upon the room, and Naruto began to perspire as two overpowering auras of ruthlessness and rage filled the space. As Irika-sensei walked into the room, assuming it would be another typical day, he began. Okay, everyone settle down, only to discover that Naruto was restrained and that Artemis and Athena were leaking ki at him. If you would please, Artemis and Athena, wait until teams are called before getting back to hurting one of your fellow graduates. With sparkling eyes, the two goddesses' heads slowly and mechanically rotated to face the Chunin, nodding. To prevent Naruto from escaping their wrath, they sat down on either side of him. After clearing his trail, Irika started reading the team's list. Team 1 is Athena, did you make sure that we are on the same team as Naruto? Yes. However, I have to make some changes. The man had Kakashi as the team leader of Team 7, which had Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke in it. He was going to put up under a join as her promotion test by ourselves, but I changed it so that she and Kakashi were training the 5 of us. Good idea. He will be more than likely upset with Naruto after we had him steal his porn and lead him to believe he still had it while we burned them. Now on to the other task at hand. What should we do to Naruto? I think something original, as I think a classic would draw too much attention to us. Team 7 is made up of 5 members due to some unusual events. Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, Artemis, and Athena. Your commanders are Kakashi and Anko. Team. An interesting choice, sister. Anko is an outcast like Naruto before she gained friends. She is a fine human woman that I wish that I could have recruited into the hunt. Even so, we need to keep an eye on the members of the council and Sasuke. He wants us as we are the only ones that will give him strong children in his mind, and the council is run by his supporters. Agreed, Irika concluded by glancing at this year's crop of ninja and saying, I wish you all the best. Now here are your new squad commanders. Naruto broke free from his chains and jumped out of the window before he could finish, if only to protect him from the 2 women's fury for as long as possible. After exchanging glances, Athena and Artemis pursued him. As they all prayed to Kami that the girls wouldn't harm Naruto, the class fell silent. For the two to save Naruto, the suffering was asking for too much. As the pair vanished over the rooftops, Hinata watched. Naruto-kun. As arrows hit where he had recently been running, Naruto ducked into an alley. As he ran through, panting, he created multiple shadow clones to cover for him. As he emerged from the alleyway and returned to the street, several poofs could be heard. "Get back here!" As he utilized a post to swing himself out of the path of a barrage of arrows that Artemis hurled at him, Naruto mentally repeated, "Nope, nope, nope." Naruto used the swing's momentum to bang himself onto a stationary, empty wagon. Using one hand to parry the spear thrust coming from his other side, he grasped a kunai and used it to stop a slash from a silver hunting knife. With a sparkle in her eyes, Athena said, "You're getting better, Naruto," as she landed on the cart. Despite her peaceful demeanor, Artemis had a predatory gaze. When the cart's increased weight allowed it to overcome its mooring, it moaned before beginning to go downhill. The three of them struggled as it moved. Artemis moved gracefully from one area of the cart to another while wielding her knives, resembling a dancer. Athena used her spear to try to engage Naruto at a more intermediate range. She could simply stabilize herself to improve her fighting skills because she was a goddess, but that would ruin the fun she was having attempting to hurt Naruto. Naruto, on the other hand, moved from one area of the cart to another, fighting defensively and searching for gaps. Naruto avoided the two females' assaults by blocking, deflecting, or simply avoiding them with his legs and kunai. Although shadow clones would have been beneficial, Naruto was compelled to forego their use due to the cart's rapid motion down the street and Artemis and Athena's refusal to release their strikes. As she watched them battle, Anko thought, "Kakashi should have joined me in evaluating these three." But no, he wanted to visit each of the Genin's homes to see what characteristics to look for in the Hokage. Anko made a mental note of each Genin's advantages and disadvantages after examining them all. Artemis, able to utilize almost any long-range weapon, proficient in the three fundamental jutsu techniques taught by the academy, and skilled in close-quarters combat with hunting knives. At the moment, genjutsu is unknown. Weakness: she needs to tone down her anti-pervert tendencies a bit to avoid upsetting her clients. Anko got up and ran up the roofs, trailing the three of them who had gotten out of the cart when it collapsed. Anko made the decision to assist Naruto after noticing that the boy was under stress. When Anko finished her treat, she tossed the stick and saw Athena's leg get impaled. Although it would slow her pace, the hit was not fatal. Athena is a master of strategy, but it is imperative that her arrogance and lack of preparation to handle outside interference be addressed as quickly as possible. She is capable of using any weapon, but her shield and spear combination is particularly effective. If she were able to combine shadow clones with her combination, I wonder what she could accomplish. When it comes to genjutsu, she is not quite as strong as Naruto. Naruto was trying to come up with a solution to A, avoid being killed, and B, escape while she was thinking this. But because the two were quicker and more intelligent than he was, Naruto was dependent on luck and sudden shifts in speed, which made him unpredictable. But he went to the spot he assumed they would look last, since they would assume he would go there first. He went there thinking they wouldn't go there first because they didn't think he was that dumb. He was now on his hands and knees, in a state of shock and sorrow. His favorite ramen stand stood in front of him, its sign closed and written in large, bold letters. Ichiraku Ramen would stay closed till further notice, it added. "Anything but the ramen, please." When Naruto looked up, he saw a man dressed like a mailman ninja. "Excuse me, sir, but could you help me with something?" he asked. His eyes glittered like a fellow joker, and his hair was blonde. Although Naruto had previously encountered messenger ninja, this one was unique. Since the man's accent was different from any he had ever heard, Naruto assumed it was his accent and didn't know what it was. "You see, I'm trying to find the person that this letter is for. Perhaps you can help?" "Sure, who are you looking for?" Naruto rolled sideways as arrows rained down on him before the man could respond. He groaned in his head. Not this again. Until he noticed that the arrows had explosive seals fastened to them. Shit! He was launched into the air by the explosion, where an irradiated Artemis gave him a drop kick. Not knowing who the youngster was, the male ninja watched as Artemis began beating Naruto. But he was aware of the girl's identity. The man vanished before Artemis had a chance to fight him. The man questioned in his mind why his sister was in the village as he hurried to his goal. After his battle with Athena and Artemis, Naruto sat in the classroom with scratches and bruises all over him. Sakura was asking Sasuke out on a date while he was hulking in the corner as usual. Athena was reading a book called Sealing Tactics Vol, while seated at the teacher's desk. She was carrying an ice pack on her leg and said, 7 by Mito Uzumaki. As she fed him, Artemis sat on his lap with a dagger between his legs. She stated that she had accidentally injured both of his hands with her knives, and as a result, they were placed in casts until tomorrow to allow them to heal. Sakura claimed that the sole reason she did so was because Naruto shouldn't have been a ninja because he was a baka. After examining the girl, Artemis sat on Naruto's lap and gave him some of the rice from her lunchbox. Sasuke was going to ask her out on a date when Artemis stuck her tongue out at them. "Don't inquire." As his perspiration dripped, Naruto chuckled. "No, I'm good. So why did you sit on my lap instead of sitting on the side? I was worried that I would have lost my tool if you had stayed on me any longer." Artemis's expression brightened. As her sister struggled to think of an excuse, Athena grinned. Artemis was both the goddess of maidens and the goddess of virgins, and occasionally the two were at conflict inside her. Artemis occasionally displayed all the symptoms of a maiden in love, even though she would give it up. Her family and hunters had to put up with it, but nothing went too far. Athena thought, "It's been far too long since we connected with the other parts of our beings." As her body felt strange in comparison to a typical eternal clone or fake body. "I will kill that love goddess and her son if they do anything." A man with silvery hair peered in when the door opened. He poofed away as Sakura began to rage at him, saying, "Yo! Meet me and Anko on the rooftop in 5. In order to prevent themselves from becoming deaf from Sakura's speech, the 4 genin hurried after him. After the team meeting, Naruto thought about how he was going to pass as he strolled through Konoha on his way home. He was alone because Athena and Artemis had vanished to Kami knows where. A hand reached out and drew him in as he passed an alley. The creature covered Naruto's mouth with its other hand and shoved him against the wall, pinning him there. "Be silent." As they strolled along the street, Athena asked Artemis, "So what should we have for dinner?" Artemis gave a headshake. "I have to check in with my hunters that are keeping the ramen stand owners occupied. Will you be able to run interfere for me if Naruto notices?" Athena said, "Of course," as she examined the costs of the different veggies for supper. She observed something strange and trailed off. "Why on the name of—" "Sis, feel that?" Artemis nodded. Yeah, that's someone familiar. But I can't tell who. Athena pointed to a hanging chime and said, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about Danzo. He has been following us for the past hour. When Artemis beheld the fragmented picture of the eerie cripple ninja, she moaned. Oh, him! He was worse than the pervert who tried to snoop on her in the hot springs, so he was a pain in her immortal side. Artemis vowed to track down the person and force him to eat his balls. Eek! Pervert! Guards! There's a pervert peeking on us! Shit! Danzo stood there and watched the sisters go down the street. Ever since they arrived in the village, the two had been a bit of a pain in his side, repeatedly getting in the way of his goals for Uzumaki Naruto. Danzo squinted as he observed the sisters gathering various dinnerware. Danzo turned on his implanted Sharingan, making sure he was out of sight and his root ninja were ready to run interference. What is this? As he gazed at the women, he pondered. His eyes started to burn, and he didn't have time to think about what he had seen. He quickly covered it with a shunshin and walked away to investigate the issue with his implanted eye. After Danzo appeared to have been branded with a white-hot iron prod, the two goddesses smirked as they watched him walk. Athena watched as Artemis departed, the mist concealing her expulsion from the mortals on the street. So I will take my leave. See ya, sis. Athena found herself leaving and making her way to her favorite bookshop. I hope all is well with Naruto. Slowly, Naruto awoke in confusion. When he saw his kidnapper sitting in front of him, sipping tea quietly, that confusion disappeared. Ah, you're awake. Good, now on to the point. Naruto was bound and restrained in a chair when he attempted to scream at his assailant. After struggling for a few seconds with his ties, he finally decided to glare at the figure. Ignoring Naruto's glare, the creature simply took a taste of whatever it was. The person set down the cup and turned to face Naruto, who was now snarling. A knife was drawn from behind the figure as it replied, Oh hush, I won't kill you. Well, maybe if you do not answer my questions truthfully. Now I am a busy person with lots of things to do. The figure went on, fingering the tool to inspect its sharpness. What is your relation with Athena and Artemis? MMPH. It flashed, and the gag was cut. Oh yes, I forgot about the gag, silly me. In addition, he sliced Naruto's eyes wide and severed many hairs. There you go. He dash! Thud. Fortunately, his tiny was unharmed as Naruto gazed at the trembling knife lodged between his legs. He raised his terrified gaze to the stranger, who Naruto was certain was grinning at his pale, perspiring face. Leaning forward to hear what was said, I missed. I don't miss usually, so was this luck or did I miss intentionally? The next one may or may not hit you, and I won't be sure where. So I do hope you forgive me if my fingers slip and you lose an eye or something equally important. Even though the candle's flames were burning brightly, Naruto gulped in fear as the shadows seemed to be closing in on him and the figure. Sakura and Sasuke awaited their colleagues and squad leaders in Training Ground 3. The Banshee persisted in urging him to date her, but Sasuke made an effort to ignore her. His only concern was gaining the authority to murder his brother. After that, find a strong woman and start a family. Where are the other two and the dobe? Sakura's nagging beside him made Sasuke wonder as he brooded, pouted. Morning. Sasuke turned to see Sakura and Artemis approaching, as a frightened Naruto clung to them. After being scowled at by her fellow female squad members, Sakura blurted out, What's wrong with the Bakir, Naruto? When Athena saw Naruto struggling to get away, she said, He's going under a ramen withdrawal right now. He screamed, Ramen! Come back to me! As he attempted to exit the training area. He was on a leash, and Artemis was gripping the end, which was the only reason he was not running away. However, Naruto was steadily dragging her. Sakura and Sasuke shook their heads and asked, So has Kakashi and Anko arrived yet? No, HNNN. The response caused Artemis to roll her eyes. Instead of attempting to drag her, Naruto was suddenly attacking, that is, biting, the rope leash as if he were a puppy or, as she understood, a fox kit. Athena, did you have to take him past that store with the sale on the you-know-what? We were behind and that was the quickest way here to be on time. Athena sulked. Kakashi was more than likely late yesterday to test our patience and see how we would do in situations where we are to go somewhere and wait for whatever we need to. Therefore, it is likely he will be arriving within the next 5 minutes, as that will be the time he asked for. Athena made sense, and Artemis, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke all nodded. They were simply waiting for Kakashi because Anko stated that she would be joining the group for the test 3 hours after the scheduled meeting time. It wasn't, after all, if Kakashi was prone to tardiness. After 3 hours, yo! The words, You're late! Were yelled at Kakashi by Athena and Sakura. Artemis had her ears closed since she was astute and had dealt with her sister before. However, the guys were lying on the ground, their ears ringing. As he applied some chakra to stop the ringing in his ears, Kakashi thought, This is going to be difficult. He, Artemis, Athena, and Anko were assisting a woman in moving into the village for another, in his words, dumb D-rank. Naruto snarled as he raised up another box, and Anko inspected her team proudly before flinching as Naruto dropped the box on his foot. F***K. As he bounced around while clutching his foot, Naruto shouted. As she picked up the dropped box, Anko rolled her eyes and said, Oh, have a backbone. The next time, make sure you have a lifter or something you can hold on to. Go ahead, she said. I still got it. When Naruto squealed and ran out to get another box, Konoha's snake mistress grinned. As Naruto sped past her to reach another box, Athena rolled her eyes and asked, Are you certain you should be lifting, Naruto? You were barely discharged from the hospital 2 weeks ago, and the doctors advised you to rest. You were driving Artemis and myself crazy with your brooding, so Anko only let you join on this D rank. I was not brooding. Naruto snatched up a nearby box and said, You two have awful bedside manners and I heal quickly, OW. For the record, we have excellent bedside manners, Naruto said, rubbing the spot on his head where Artemis had hit him. You are simply a person who is unsure about when to remain in one place. We are the only ones who can keep you bedridden, which is why you were released. Artemis gave him a skewed smile as she passed by. By moving my legs and arms. It prevented you from leaving. Anthea shrugged. We ought to have just given you the photos, in my opinion. Never. After exchanging glances, Athena and Artemis burst out laughing at Naruto's outburst. Isn't he entertaining to tease, sis? After making sure Naruto was out of earshot, Artemis remarked. Athena rolled her eyes, but Artemis noticed the sparkle in them as her older half-sister passed by. You ought to be aware. It's you who has the twin. That idiot is probably going to be the end of me, Artemis moaned. His mother is constantly reminding him not to act hastily, but he must pursue women like a lustful mutt. After all these millennia, At least he has calmed down. It was funny when you had him turn into a dog so he could be pampered by that vet that he said was smoking hot. Oh, I still have the video of him and her together, Artemis said, bursting into laughter. When the scissors emerged with the needle, his dog's expression was wonderful. Until they grew back, he spent a month in his shrine attempting to forget the loss of his belongings. It had been exciting since the meeting of the Genin test, and both goddesses were satisfied with the result but sad with what had happened. They both laughed and returned to their work. Rewind. Naruto winced as Kakashi used a move called the 1,000 Years of Death on Sasuke, and he growled softly as he watched Sasuke attempt to take a bell from Kakashi. Did that fool realize that this was a Jounin-class ninja, or did he truly think that because he came from some powerful clan he could do whatever he pleased? As Naruto watched Sasuke fly, he thought, he really got some air. So Athena, do you have a strategy to go to the bells and bring them to Anko-sensei? If I had just gone in blindly or tried to cry, it would have been me. All in the hour? Athena grinned and tossed her hair over her shoulders, saying, Of course. I always have a plan. That's correct. Similar to when you, Athena yelled/whispered, Artemis! You promised to never speak of that, to her eternal sister. Naruto snickered into his fist, trying to conceal it as he cleared his throat, while Artemis stuck her tongue out. Athena took a moment to collect herself before turning to face her teammates. Let's go with Plan 3. Naruto nodded and smiled before vanishing into the leaf and branch tangle. As she knocked 3 arrows in her bow, Artemis' eyes gleamed. Athena, on her part, prepared her sword and spear. While they waited for Naruto to take his place, both goddesses counted down. They didn't have to wait long because Naruto demonstrated his presence by reflecting the sun with his headband. Let the hunt/game commence. In boredom, Kakashi changed the page of his book. So far, today was proceeding more or less as he had anticipated. Despite his surprise, Sasuke launched the initial attack. Kakashi was certain that it would be Naruto, even if he used traps and battled skillfully for a newly minted genin. In his books, Sasuke was a genius while Naruto was a fool. Much like Obishio and himself, as well as Rin. As for the other 2 girls on the squad, Kakashi was quite certain that Sakura could become a medic ninja or a genjutsu specialist if pushed like Rin was. He didn't know. When he was given the opportunity to lead a squad, he was surprised by the unexpected wild cards, Artemis and Athena. He had Anko to assist him in training, at least. As of right now, however, Kakashi was positive that she and Naruto's odd companions would only cause the youngster trouble. He didn't have anything against Anko. He was only heading a squad and didn't find it intriguing to watch over and guide a special jounin. As he read, Kakashi thought, perhaps I can ask the Hokage if it is possible to form a 3-man squad instead of the usual 4. When he heard a whistling sound, he grabbed a kunai and deflected the arrow. To his secret enjoyment, a few more emerged from the trees. You do realize a ninja must never reveal his location, Naruto? Taking his bow in hand, Naruto strode out of the forest, grinning. How did you know that it was me? Artemis uses a bow too. The sliver-haired man spun his kunai and said, She fires her arrows at a faster rate and while moving. Yours was too static to be hers. But a good try in improvisation. Naruto's grin simply got bigger. Perhaps, but I wasn't trying to intimidate her. The moment the arrows started to smoke, Kakshi's visible eye expanded. He leaped away to avoid the tags tied around the arrow shafts exploding. Kakashi checked on his boo, grunting from the shock wave that hit him. He was almost stabbed by Athena's spear from around, and he signed in relief that it was still intact. After giving her a roundhouse kick to the midsection, he questioned, "Tag teaming me now, are you?" Only to discover that his foot had gone through her. "Nanny! No jutsu bushin!" With a sly smile, Athena struck Kakashi's side with her shield. She gloated as she attacked his book, only to have him dodge and block her spear. "Perhaps or perhaps not. Perverted Cyclops." Naruto attempted to strike Kakashi, but he vanished in a puff of smoke after snatching the goddess' spear. As she and Naruto looked around, Athena thought, "Substitution." As Naruto searched for the Jounin, his eyes darted back and forth. "He is not in the forest, or the air. He's not behind me because Athena and I are back to back. Maybe Genjutsu? No. Artemis would have used her chili arrow bombs to bring us out. That implies Athena! Below us!" Naruto screamed while leaping around. Athena, who shared Naruto's conclusion, rose as soon as she sensed movement in the earth. Just in time, the goddess cleared the ground and smiled slightly before slamming her shield into Kakashi's startled face, who was not mentally ready for the sight of the Gorgon descending on him. The three anti-perverts were thrilled by the sound of the crunch. It wasn't the dispelling of a shadow clone's poof. Artemis waited nearby, hiding in the darkness, searching for her victim. When the goddess of the hunt noticed that some branches were swaying in a different way than the ones that were swaying in the breeze, her eyes narrowed. As she let her arrow fly, she thought, "Got you!" The sound of a man sobbing in fear as her arrow tore the book of fate was a proud moment. Gazing at the ruined book, which Artemis's arrow had splintered in two, Kakashi looked horrified. "This calls for war!" As he removed his headband, he thought. He was so furious that he failed to notice that there were no bells by his side. There were bells that one Uzumaki Naruto was carrying. Naruto ran toward Anko's place as quickly as his legs would allow. The blonde heard the yell of anger, and the yelling of a furious Kakashi behind him. It was an easy strategy. Their task was to keep Kakashi from learning that the bells were gone, and then prevent him from getting to Naruto because Athena and Artemis were the finest warriors of all of them. Artemis could have snatched the bells, but she was exceptional at stalling the Jounin because of her quickness and precision with the bow and her ability to blend in with the forest. Furthermore, Kakashi could locate and reach him more quickly than Athena if she managed to escape the sisters. While he was racing, Naruto thought, "I wouldn't let you two down." A glimmer of movement approached him from the periphery of his vision. When Naruto realized who it was, he was ready to seize and toss a kunai. "Artemis?" As she pointed her bow and fired behind her, she said, "Naruto." As the tightness in his limbs gradually subsided, Naruto questioned, "Why aren't you with Athena?" "She's still fighting a shadow clone that he made after a substitution. He is pretty pissed, and she's trying to hold him off. I was following him but lost him, so I came here to make sure you still had the bells." Naruto was silent for a while before responding, "Okay then." As she ran behind her teammate, Artemis was also quiet. "Hey Artemis, still think that the duck butt is cool? I mean, you do have a thing for him secretly." She only managed to say, "Why of course dash," before Naruto's fist struck her in the face. Naruto resumed his journey and soon found himself in the clearing alongside Anko. She ate a dango and raised an eyebrow. "Well, brat." Naruto smiled and held out his hand to show her the bells. Her mouth fell open in surprise and he laughed. When the alarm clock sounded, he responded, "I guess we win, huh?" When the air was broken by a cry, Anko nodded weakly as she grabbed for the bells to take them from Naruto. "Naruto! You jerk, how dare you hurt Sasuke Kyuin!" Sakura's hand crashed into Naruto, sending him flying before he could respond. Flashback end. Sakura's beating on Naruto resulted in multiple fractures to his legs and skull, which required medical attention. Sakura was permitted to remain a ninja because Naruto was the demon brat, and her mother was a council member. 2/3 of her mission earnings, however, would be used to cover Naruto's medical expenses because she was unable to complete any missions. The Hokage was also angry at Kakashi. According to the elderly man, the Jounin went too far in the exam, and the only reason for this was that Kakashi was permitted to continue teaching genin by the council's directives, but only to instruct Sasuke, Sakura, and a genin named Sai. Several ninja clan heads and people reasoned that he was the only person who could educate the last Uchiha how to wield his heritage. The fifth was aware that their sole goal was to ensure they had a trump card in case Naruto disappeared. As her own genin team, Anko was assigned to lead Naruto and the sisters. However, due to Naruto's injuries and recuperation, the newly assembled Team 11 was compelled to compete in D-ranked until the doctors gave their approval. As a result, Anko had to figure out how to teach the sisters and Naruto without the doctors telling him to slow down. One voice said, "How is it going?" When they recognized the voice, Athena and Artemis froze in dread and shock. When Naruto heard the voice, he was leaving the doorway and squawked to see who was behind his friends. "I was hoping to see you two sooner, but then I thought, why not see where this goes? And hello again, Naruto. Miss me and our little chat?" As she left the house, Anko grinned and said, "Ah, Mris. Hearth. As you can see, we are almost done." "Miss Hearth?" The goddesses considered and then went pale with terror. The two sisters turned carefully in the direction of the voice, hoping that it wasn't who it was, like one of the Smith god's mechanical machines. It was too late. A woman with a flame-patterned kimono embroidered on her was standing behind them. Her eyes glowed like slow fire flames, and her brown hair fluttered in the wind. The two goddesses knew who it was and whimpered in terror. The goddess of the hearth, Hestia, has made her way to Konoha. She wasn't pleased either. As he smoked his pipe and reflected on his previous meeting with the Konoha Council, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, gazed with disgust at the mountains of paperwork he had to descend. He made a mistake on one of the paperwork and cursed. The elderly guy gazed across the village and said, "Damn Haruno and her family. I would have put her daughter in her proper place if it weren't for the village's need for their family's minds." A sack of papers was reached for by the third Hokage. When he finally located the one he was looking for, he took it out of the stack. The old guy set it aside and raised his head. "Still entering my window at Jiraiya?" The white-haired Sannin laughed and moved into his sensei's field of vision. "It's far faster than the door, old man. Now you summon me about Naruto?" "Yes," Hiruzen said, passing the paper he had removed to the Toad Sage. "It would seem that Mrs. Haruno has been using her family's control over the mines and the Haruno trading routes to influence the council. I had no proof until the last meeting when she used it to keep her daughter on the duty roster. Then it took all my power to keep Naruto on duty without Danzo sinking his claws on him." The sage looked at the paper, rolled his eyes, and pocketed it. "So the area making their move then. I'll have my people keep a sharp lookout at intersecting points. Hiruzen wasn't a fool when he told the girls. Good. Now do you have anything on the duo that are on your godson's team? He sensed the odd genjutsu they threw on the village and its people when he first laid eyes on them. He had dispelled it, and understood it was a powerful one at that. In order for his own guards to be less harmed than others, he had to help them escape, and the third had seals added to his most trusted nin. Jiraiya gave his head a back rub. Not much if anything. It's as if they just appeared out of thin air. There is not a single record of birth, family, medical, or even damn rumors of them. I even asked a few of my spies and they found no record from the villages they were in mentioning them. This is bad. They have inserted themselves too close to Naruto for me to have them disappear in the dead of the night anymore. I told you, Sensei, that they needed to be kept away from Naruto. Or what, Jiraiya? You're his godfather, and you were never there for him. Hell, even Tsunade hasn't even come and checked on him. But at least she has asked to be sent pictures of him, and sends him a birthday letter every year. Hiruzen let out a sigh and massaged. Artemis and Athena are his precious people now, and if something were to happen to them, Naruto will never trust me again. They have kept him sane all this time and have been a great and major influence on him for the past years. Just as the Sannin was ready to respond, an ANBU agent showed up. Lord Third, the same genjutsu that we appeared when those two appeared. What? Tell me everything that has changed and how you came to this conclusion. Now! Walking down the street with Akamaru atop his head, Kiba Inuzuka yawned. The dog glanced down at his owner and yipped, saying, So buddy, what should we do now? Go home and train, or we could go hang out with Naruto. Kiba turned and made his way to the Nara clan residence after nodding in response to his partner's response. Kiba pointed into an alley and said, Good point. Mom and Sis are still mad at me for wetting the bed again. Hey, what's that over there? The pair moved in the direction of the ground-based shape. Kiba grabbed a stick and proceeded to prod the unidentified object in front of him. Kiba and his partner exchanged glances after receiving no response. As their immortal ant pounded into them, Artemis and Athena gripped each other in fear. After they completed the assignment, Naruto immediately ran away, and Anko left to give the Kage her report. The pair considered what they would do to their cowardly friend and comrade while they were being reprimanded. They didn't hold him responsible. Among the immortals to never urinate, Hestia was at the top of the list. But only her siblings knew what would happen if the hearth goddess lost her temper. As she finished, Hestia's eyes pierced them. Now, as you two are a part of this mortal's life, you need to understand that you have changed his fate. I had to convince those three not to come here themselves to punish you for messing everything up that Hei had planned. They are livid with you both, and if it wasn't for several favors to multiple gods and goddesses, you both could have lost your immortality, or worse. But Hestia don't you Hestia me young lady! I am very upset you both. I had thought that you Athena would at least remember the rules. And you Artemis, having you own hunters hold on to two mortals. If it wasn't for your lieutenant coming to me, I would have never come to this village to deal with you Artemis. They are both at least are healthy, but they are lucky that your brother didn't notice them. Under Hestia's scrutiny, Artemis cowardly said, I have faith in my hunters. If you had faith, why aren't they with you? Is it because you are ashamed by being in association with the boy? No, cried Artemis. Hestia, Naruto is my friend and my teammate. I have spent several years with the boy and he has done nothing wrong. With hesitation, Athena said. And Hestia, as Hestia glanced at her. Naruto, when we met him, was alone and hurt. We have spent these past few years being a part of his life when he was alone, and cared for by nearly everyone in this village. He has not family to note, many people that conspire against him, and he carries a burden that he had no choice about. In an attempt to relieve the severe headache she was suddenly experiencing, Hestia sipped some cold nectar. Her nieces were pressuring her to do something she didn't want to do. As they made their case to her, she thought, I just don't want them to be hurt. Actually, all I wanted was to unwind with Hades during a break from work, but he was hampered by Demeter and his wife. I trust you both have no more surprises for me. I had to deal with this mess after that, and now I have to keep this from my brother. When the two breathless goddesses understood the elder goddess would not harm them, they relaxed and said, Yes, Hestia. But as Hestia took another sip, the two failed to notice the gleam and sneer in her eyes. Artemis and Athena got up and went to the door, saying, Now you both may go. Hestia yelled out to them as soon as they arrived. Now you two don't forget to wear protection, dearies. Lady Hestia! A ball of fire whizzed over Artemis' head, and she swore in Greek. Athena was nearby, using steel tags to bandage her leg that had been injured by a stay explosion. While Anko battled the Jonin, Naruto and his clones engaged the enemy genin in hand-to-hand combat. She knocked an arrow, countered, fired, and ducked once more. All she needed to know that she had struck something was a scream of anguish. A shadow clone of Naruto said, I thought this was going to be a C-ranked, as he was defeated. As the burn healed, Athena let out a hiss. She took hold of her spear and hurled it at one of Naruto's enemies who was about to overpower her comrade. When she said, They didn't get the memo then, she sounded irritated. She spun around the house on foot and booted the genin who was trying to approach from behind but couldn't conceal his lustful laughter. The head of an earth clone was destroyed by Artemis' bow, which moved sideways to escape multiple earth spikes. How was the Hokage or the client going to know that IWA sent a team to steal the message? The girl who had fired the jutsu was hit by multiple kunai thrown by Naruto. While hurling lava balls at Naruto, who had to avoid the burning rocks of death, she swore and ran in his direction. When the IWA genin team intercepted them, the crew realized that this mission was no longer a mid-level C-ranking mission, but things were becoming out of control. As they attempted to say, alive, the team reasoned that whatever was in the message had better be worthwhile. A shadow clone abruptly gave Naruto a recollection, and he realized it was time to flee. As he kicked the head off an earth clone, he yelled, Guys! They got reinforcements inbound. Plan Theta! The two goddesses summoned their chakras and nodded. Summoning no jutsu! The IWA genin retreated and readied themselves to defend against any summons that may be summoned to the battlefield as two sizable plumes of smoke emerged. Leading her troops away, Anko wiped the blood from her cheeks. She was aware that she was fortunate that her opponent was a new Jonin. If it had been an experienced one, she was certain that they would have been murdered or suffered a more serious injury in order to prevail. One of her genin would try to shake their tail by throwing an explosive behind them every few meters. She didn't look forward to telling the Hokage that she had abandoned a mission, but losing her genin was worse. Anko eyed her charges and was dissatisfied with the odds. Artemis' left leg was heavily bruised, and she had multiple broken ribs. Even through the bandages, her fingers were bleeding. In addition to having a sprained collarbone and a dislocated shoulder, Athena also had an intact kunai in one leg and multiple pieces of a broken one in the other. Additionally, Athena sustained first and second degree burns from Katon Jutsu that her shield was unable to prevent. Since she was now somewhat bald on one side of her head due to the fire, she was able to murder the person who had done it to her. She was concerned about Naruto, though. The blonde genin was in almost critical condition, supported by his final two shadow clones. To give Naruto a chance, Anko had to conduct an impromptu emergency field operation. Aside from multiple cuts and bruises, he also had 3 shattered ribs on one side and at least most, if not all, of his left ribs sprained. His lower legs were not attached to his knees, he had multiple shurikens embedded in his upper back, and he had a mid-level brain trauma that was beginning to heal. He had a kunai in his side that got trapped between his ribs but missed his organs. Additionally, he had a piece of a blade that had impaled him. Anko was aware that if it wasn't fixed within the hour, she made an effort to ignore the possibility of the Kibubi being let out. They were all experiencing low stamina and chakra depletion. Instead of harassing and chipping away at their last remaining minutes of strength, the enemy was soon to attack. I might have to murder my team. Anko made an effort to ignore the ominous voice in her head in order to put an end to the genin's agony and any more. If Naruto appeared to be a younger version of the fourth, he would be slain. For her and her 2 female charges, death was preferable to the consequences of capturing a Kenichi. Artemis screamed as her body collapsed beneath her, causing her to fall heavily to the ground. When Athena was caught in a genjutsu monetarily, she fell next. One of their tails decided to attack at that same moment, but Naruto managed to muster up enough strength to stab the Iwa Nin in the throat with his fingers, causing him to die a torturous death. As he dashed in the direction of the enemy, Nara yelled, "You too! Take them and follow Anko-sensei. I'll hold them off as long as I can." His legs had been restored by his prisoner's assistance and his Uzumaki healing factor. Only once did he turn to face Anko again, his eyes beseeching her to ensure their survival and vowing that his death would not be in vain. One of the clones responded, "Right, boss," and seized Athena's form, which was trapped in a much powerful genjutsu. As Artemis attempted to stand up to assist her companion, Anko sternly grasped her. The goddess pleaded with the mortal girl to let her go, but Anko wasn't prepared to lose another pupil. "Come on! We got to help him!" The air was filled with the noises of an explosion and the screams of a person who had nothing to lose. "We have to help him!" Anko simply held on to the female tighter. She disregarded the girl's cries as she called out to her comrade, attempting to assist him, saying, "There is nothing we can do now. He knew what he was doing, and I will not let you make his sacrifice go in vain. He was and is a Konoha ninja." Anko mentally marked the location so that a team could return to check for any remains of a body after the 3 and clone left. "Am I dead? Come on over. This boy is in need of assistance right now." "Who is that? Where am I? What do you do, Saber? My goodness. Now, Sensei, we need your assistance." "Hey, youngster, everything will be alright. The pain and blood should be lessened by some medical jutsu that I am familiar with. We have to get to the village as soon as possible, girls." "Alright. I was engaged in combat with someone. I want you to apply some ice to his ribs. Is death. This child appears to have been involved in a fight with a summoned bear or something in the past. Kid, stay with us. We're losing him, damn it. I'm so exhausted. He's fading. Try to keep his heart pounding as fast as possible. It will be alright, child. We're 4. Why isn't she making any noise with her mouth? In any case, who is that? He's leaving us. I need someone to ignite a fire. Why does everything seem so gloomy? Does dying look like this? And why with? Voices urging him to remain awake were ignored as Naruto sank back into the blackness that engulfed his vision. As Anko completed her report to her Kage, the Konoha hospital fell silent. She was lying on the bed with an 4 drip attached to her arm and several bandages. After spending several hours with medics attempting to stabilize them, her 2 surviving genin were in critical condition. The third inhaled deeply and made a concerted effort to control his temper. Since that mission was not a C-ranked one at all, he was more upset with the client and the person who filed it. No, it was an S rank based on Anko's description of the ambush and the wounds on the females' bodies. Someone was willing to pay multiple teams of seasoned ninja to stop that letter from being delivered to its intended location. However, Hiruzen was informed of the situation by the attacker's details and the identity of the mission client. He didn't like it either. He got out of his chair and said, "Thank you, Anko. You and your team will be compensated for what you have been, though, and be given AS rank mission pay. It will be noted in your mission log." As she fell asleep, Anko said softly, "Thank you, sir." As he stood up, the elderly man's weary gaze lingered on the mark on her exposed shoulder. The man walked quickly out of the room and toward the western gate. He and his men departed Konoha more quickly, nodding to the gate guards. Hestia glanced at her 2 nieces while they were sleeping. She was upset and worried for them, but it wasn't the right moment or location. She poured some of her special nectar down their throats. "Cough, cough," as Athena coughed up some of the drink, she exclaimed. "What in the name of—" She looked up to see Hestia's anxious countenance. And Hestia poured the remainder down Artemis's, ignoring the youthful goddess. After that, she moved to the window-side chair and took a seat. Hestia's gentle tone made the 2 of them wince. "Do you know how angry and worried I am right now?" The goddess of the hearth gazed at them, her eyes glowing in the darkened room. "Why do you risk so much for that mortal?" Artemis snarled. "He has a name." "Naruto, Lady Hestia." As she recovered from her wounds, Athena nodded. Hestia waited for her to continue, studying the goddesses of wisdom and hunting with irradiation on her face. "We care for him because we are all he has for his sanity. When we first met Naruto, he was alone and hated by many in this village. As the goddess of the hearth and family, you should know that he believes us to be his family and that is the problem." She was interrupted by Hestia. "You 2 are goddesses, immortals, and he has no idea that you will outlive him. I can feel the bond he has for the both of you, and if he were to find out that you 2 are goddesses, what then? He has spent his life sharing his world with the 2 of you, and yet you have not shared your secrets to the boy. He would question everything you have done, breaking the truest between you 3 forever. Your father, when he finds out, might kill the boy for being in your presence for so long in fear that you may forsake your oaths." The stillness in the room felt oppressive. Hestia took a deep breath. She continued in a gentle manner, "How will you both feel if your father kills Naruto? You 2 are too close to the boy, and I fear that the repercussions of your actions will hound you for the rest of your days. Get out." Artemis' shadowed face caught Hesita's attention. With one last glance at her nieces, the goddess departed, leaving a sour taste in her mouth as she pondered what Zeus would do. "Very well then. I will leave. But make no mistake, while I will not harm the boy, I cannot let this matter go." Hestia was aware that the circumstances her nieces were in would only lead to catastrophe. Her heart belonged to the boy, even though her duty and thoughts told her otherwise. She had sensed the anguish and need for a family in his heart and eyes, as well as how the boy had been filled by Athena and Artemis. However, the goddess was aware that he would embark down a terrible path after learning the truth and his companions abandoned him. Like the one she had with Otsutsuki Kagaya all those years ago. Naruto opened his eyes slowly and blinked, attempting to see again in the light environment. Instead of Konoha, where he always occupied the worst room when the doctors had their way, he was in a sterile hospital room, bandaged. Or, before to seeing his pals, the dumpster. He silently cursed as he moved his arms and legs to see how he was doing and discovered that his legs and healthy arm were chained to the bed. Naruto immediately pretended to go back to sleep while keeping his ears open after hearing voices outside the door. The heat and stress of the voices approaching the door caused perspiration to begin to accumulate on his chest. Our responsibility to take care of him even if he is an unknown factor. I will not let this boy die on my watch, Yoki-sama. You should be ashamed of yourself. We took an oath as doctors to dash. Don't tell me that you've forgotten that several shinobi have pretended to be injured before so that they could enter the village. Team 4 said that he was on death's doorstep when they found him, yet when they brought him here he was only had mildly severe wounds with no evidence that was showed that he was critically hurt. Jiraiya was an old man doing his work for his village and his personal stories for that Ikia series of his. This is a young boy that needs us. That toad sage was also not as badly injured, and the Konoha shinobi in the room may not be awake for another day. Naruto heard them enter as the door opened. He put his escape plans on wait as he attempted to figure out who the toad sage the two were referring to was. But based on the footsteps, he could infer that a third and fourth person had just entered the room. Lady Shizuka, Tokiwa. Why are you two here? We came to see for ourselves the shinobi team 4 brought back. Is that him? Yes, Tokiwa, but may I ask why did you come here to see this boy? I had heard the staff and several of the members of the corps that a shinobi from the leaf was recovered. I thought that he could tell me who is Jiraiya's apprentice is now. With the fourth's death I thought that perhaps he had forgotten his promise. However, he has been sighted with the leaf for some time. I thought perhaps that the boy could tell me. Speaking of the fourth, the boy looks like a lot like the former Hokage. Do you think that he is Dash? Perhaps. Konoha may have lied about Minato and Kushina having a child together so that Iwa or any number of villages could not kill the lad. But if he is the son of their favorite Hokage, why was he abandoned? Why has the leaf not trained or feed this child? He looks like he was feeding on trash if he is that size. Too many questions. The exams are coming up. Perhaps we should send a few teams to investigate what is going on. It may be our only way to get answers. Naruto listened as the potential doctor made notes, as the voices ceased speaking. After a minute the room became calm and he began to think of names and queries. Who was Jiraiya, the toad sage, and who were Minato and Kushina? Like he did with the Kyuubi, did the old man tell him lies about his parents? Sleep eventually came to him as those questions crowded his head, if only to keep Naruto's mind from discovering the truth. Standing in contemplation on the balcony of his lordship's palace, Rei Shibutai swirled the wine around his goblet. The young guy, a small noble of the court with only a few generations of nobility, was aware that he needed to marry someone valuable in the Fire Kingdom in order to solidify and possibly elevate his status. His family had been marrying Kenichi from different little ninja villages for years in order to acquire jutsu, political power, and territory. However, he desired more beyond what his family anticipated, just like his mother did before him. Although his mother wedded his father, the wealthiest merchant guild master, he desired to wed a woman or young lady to flaunt to the other noblemen and claim as his own. He went on a vacation to Konoha 5 years ago to see Yukiya, the last purportedly faithful person. Uncha, Sasuke, a clan member. The journey was a waste of a potential path to a rise in status until he saw them, since the boy refused to see Rei. He was warned about 2 young girls who were with the village's demon brat. He was aware of who he was. After the Third Shinobi War, Naruto Uzumaki, or more accurately, the son of the late 4th Hokage, damaged his political plan. Naturally, the carrier's death as collateral damage was simply by accident, so the man was unaware of it. After that episode, he detested that man, felt threatened in his courtship, and thought his decision to wed the Uzumaki carrier rather than his older sister was an insult of the highest magnitude. Rei believed that Kushina was the one who killed his deceased relative, and he was more than willing to assist the masked man in his assault on Konoha when he arrived. He quickly drained his wine and tossed it against the wall, where it broke into 1,000 fragments. He was denied the opportunity to have them two at his side by the dameable brat. Rei spit out his mouth and cursed the word Uzumaki. His scouts informed him that the third was en route to his house to conduct an investigation, and the brat was not even dead. Nobody was able to complete a simple mission that would have paid a S rank but an A rank instead. From the room's shadows came a voice that inquired, "Was that necessary?" Rei snarled. "Your plan failed to cripple or end the brat failed, and the third is on his way here. I thought that your organization was the best in the elemental nations. The conflict would have allowed your group in identifying Jinchuriki and how strong they were if a war started and I gained the death of the son of my most hated adversary along with the 2 girls. After having them broken, of course, Kenichi once broken are as helpless as the filthy commoners." The woman sneered as she stepped into the light, her eyes brimming with rage and obvious contempt. "If you weren't such an important part of our network in the Land of Fire, I would have you killed." The Kenichi nodded, wondering how Pain could support this war-mad creature as a source of revenue for the organization. "TSK. I suppose you can arrange something to derail the Hokage?" she asked. "Out with it then. Oh, how I wish I could kill him now. I heard there's a group of slaver bandits that have a number of A-ranked shinobi. Maybe if they came across the Hokage and his ANBU, they would both be killed." Rei's teeth were bared at the idea. "And the IWA ninjas?" "Been taken care of." Hestia scowled when she overheard Shibutai and the Akatsuki woman talking over the fireplace. In order to protect her nieces from the pain of the village leader's death, she felt compelled to take action and end their lives. Another part of her, however, hoped the plan would succeed, since the boy would undoubtedly be weakened by the death of the 3rd Hokage, and would probably strike out in anguish. Hestia detested the Jinchuriki because they brought back too many terrible memories of her worst dereliction as a goddess, and the agony of seeing certain creatures employed as weapons of mass destruction infuriated her. After letting out a sigh, she returned her focus to her nephew, who was hopping around. "You know, for a male nin, you're not acting the part, Hermes." The messenger god gave an eye roll. "You would be angsty too if your half-brother was the god of truth. Apollo has been wondering what has got his sister's attention and has been consulting Zap Happy. I'll take care of my brother easily, My sister has been wanting to be pampered, and I know just the thing to get him to spice their marriage up and keep him from listening to Apollo for a while. As for your sibling, it would be problematic if his oracle went missing from the camp. Hermes gave his head a rub. You know that is not easy even for myself, right? The last god who did do anything to the oracle was Hades. She felt irritated at her nephew. Your point? How about something that would get his attention for the next several months that no one will question? In fact, I know of a guy whose book Sunshine wants signed. I'll eyed them. If I got him the copies, he should be in his temple more. Apollo enjoyed reading, and Hestia recognized who Hermes was referring to, so she thought over Hermes' plan before nodding. The toad sage was the person she detested, not hated, the most, aside from the boy. She was eager to invite him over for a show and dinner. The food? Roasted, as his aunt started to crackle in the way women got, and knew how to exact revenge. Hermes shuddered. The god moved slowly out of the house, leaving as little trace as possible. That was the strategy. With narrowed eyes, 3 ANBU ninja observed the sand-haired male Neen as she left Lady Hearth's home. The gang split up, staying in the shadows. One of the ninja ran off to get reinforcements, while his fellows cautiously followed him. The individual was an outlier who might have something to do with the Uzumaki container's disappearance. It was better to be safe than sorry because the tests will start in a few weeks. The two were sidelined by a gigantic ram that was on fire as they leaped over an alleyway and reached Training Ground 12. The woman's eyes widened as she dived beneath a blade from their target and sliced to her left, saying, You know it's not nice following someone. I'll have to educate you about harming travelers. Right, Tun, Furashaho. Her companion threw a lightning bolt at her assailant, who merely shifted his head aside in reaction. He nearly missed multiple needles aiming at her arms, legs, and junk because his eyes were wide. Hermes flipped his sword into a reverse hold, and then kneed the ANBU in the gut after slicing off her mask. Then he grabbed her hair, jerked her head up, and struck her face with the hilt of his sword, knocking her unconscious. That's one. The final Konoha Nin stopped for a moment, apprehensive at the sight of his mate being sent away so swiftly. The attack that killed him was not visible to him. Ah man, George, did you have to kill him? Shove it, Martha! At least you didn't have to pretend to be the handle for his postal bag this time. As the snakes on his power sign quarreled back and forth, Hermes rolled his eyes. In order to transport the man ninja to the underworld, he reached out and grabbed his soul. After Hermes' unsuccessful joke on the death god wrecked his uncle and half-sister's wedding anniversary, Thanos went on vacation. Even his father couldn't protect him from the duo's wrath, and Hermes shuddered. He had to work for 10 years to gather souls to cover the damages, receive free mail for people who fell for his joke, and worst of all, endure his mother's tirade for more than an hour. If it was only words, his mother wasn't so horrible, but no, she took away his abilities and made him serve as her personal attendant at her tea party for young girls while he was 12 years old. Hermes shuddered at the thought of all those mothers pinching his cheeks and making him play dress-up. Never do that again. Rolling his eyes at the struggling spirit, he vaporized the body before changing the woman who had followed him's memories from one of a male ninja to one of a traitor who had followed him and fallen unconscious after killing him. After checking, he discovered that the man he had slain was a Suna missing Nin who was employed by the Akatsuki. With a snap of his fingers, he vanished into oblivion, sending his soul to the underworld and ending his business without anyone noticing. The village of Stone had direct access to the capital and mines, as well as erratic access to the main stage farming town of the Land of Fire, following the platoon's collapse at the Iron Pass between Iwa and Konoha. Even though Minato, a Jounin, defeated a battalion of Iwa shinobi in a historic battle, Kushina Uzumaki's actions were what turned the tide of the war back in our friend's favor. Kushina was a woman who, despite not being a part of our great village, I must say would have been welcomed if Konoha and her fallen home hadn't formed an alliance. In the battle that is now known as the Demon's Playground, Kushina successfully repelled the Kage and his elite guards by using her lineage, abilities, and the nine-tailed beast chakra. Although records are scarce, her actions prevented the Iwa Nin from sabotaging the capital during their surprise raid when the majority of their attack force was at the citadel of Rajai, the country's biggest mining company at the time. Even with Minato's jutsu against them, Iwa might have won the war if she hadn't done what she did. The battle is described in Chapter 37. The sensei of the man who would become the fourth Hokage was the thrice-damned pervert Toad Sage, but the true force behind the guy was his beloved Kushina. Ahead should have been the first Hokage woman, in my opinion, as she inspired him with the jutsu known as the Rasengan, and taught him the techniques that earned him the nickname Yellow Flash. There are many contradictory rumors about why Konoha was a devoted and strong ninja, but many blame Danzo and the Shibutai family for persuading the dying monarch that, as a foreigner, Kushina could use the village concealed in the leaves to exact revenge on those who had destroyed her home, thus extending the war rather than bringing it to an end. After setting the book he was reading aside, Naruto gazed out the window. According to what he read and what he discussed with the village chief, his mother was a strong kunoichi and the final bearer of the nine tails. With his fists clenched, Naruto vowed to overcome his parents' abilities. Some of the nurses laughed, and wished him luck because of it. With the help of Senju, an elderly woman who attended his parents' wedding, he was already working on the Rasengan. She merely claimed to be assisting him because she was a supporter of the Anti-Pervert League and was aware of the efforts to stop the sale of the Ichi Ichi series, not because she was a fellow Leaf Nin. "Oi brat, how was the reading?" As the woman entered, Naruto grinned and looked at her face without a glance at her enormous chest. "It was awesome! My parents were amazing and—" Tsunade gestured to the youngster with her hand. "No need to explain, Naruto, your folks were good friends of mine. While my teammate may have helped your father, your mother was like a daughter to me. Now, show me how far you have gotten with the control exercises I gave you." With a smile, Naruto held up his hand. By focusing, he activated his chakra, creating a luminous orb that gradually grew in size. Tsunade gave him a nod of affirmation. She was first annoyed that she had stepped in on the village elder's behalf, but when she saw it was Naruto, she allowed her relationship with Kushina to override her dread of blood in order to assist him. It helped that he was courteous, cute, a member of the Anti-Pervert League, and cute. She hoped that after what the assistant did, he wouldn't think she thought he was even cute. She wanted to give him a big embrace and kisses after seeing how he responded to being called cute. As she looked over his figure, she thought, "I'm not a cougar or MLF, but he's making it hard. Are you ready to go home, Gaki? I am gonna have to give you a clean bill of health, and dealing with our hosts has gotten old," Death said. "I resent that remark." As she entered, Death walked by Tsunade to his bed, sat next Naruto, and then lay down with one leg crossed. "You don't think I'm old, do you, Naruto?" Death was among the first individuals to communicate with him. Her mother wrote the book he was reading, and for some reason, she insisted that he call her Izi-chan rather than by her own name. Not at all, Izi-chan. Can you get off me? Death yawned and went to sleep while Tsunade laughed at her godson's situation of turning into a teddy bear. No, I want to stay like this for a while. She left the room with a letter to let their hosts know that she would be escorting Naruto back to Konoha the next morning. She then made a brief detour. Wave was, after all, offering for sale a rare case of wearing arrow wine,